Hello everyone, and this is a full entire walkthrough of the Orbis Gladiatorium. This is a very long video because it actually did take me about an hour to complete everything, but this will literally go through every single fight in this Gladiatorium and how to clear it. Now, if you're an endgame player, it should be pretty easy to clear, but if you're a new player, you don't have that game knowledge to know how some of the mechanics works, as well as basically advantages in order to get to your win in some PvP content. I really enjoyed this event because it does give you a little bit of that introduction as well as like that exposure to PvP. Now you do have these battle objects here that will help you throughout it, so it's not a one-to-one comparison to PvP, but it still gives you a really good like introduction to PvP before you can hop into like draft mode or so, or maybe arena. So this right now is a voiceover because I accidentally forgot to turn up my mic, so later on in the video you're going to see my actual regular playthrough voice playing. So yeah, so you can just listen to me here. So for this entire video, we're only using support units. This is so it's more relatable to you guys instead of using my own gear. Like for instance, the Ross here, when I checked it, was about 19k HP. If I had used my own Ross, it would have been like 30k HP, which would have been way more easier, would have made my life a lot more easier, but of course that wouldn't be relatable. If you want to use your own units, you can. I just decided to use supports just so it's relatable to you guys. These first fights are not very hard, but I'll just walk through it and just give my thinking for each of the moves I do. We're just going to go ahead and just take the attack and HP battle objects here because it just, why not, right? It just makes us slightly more tankier and it just makes, it just gives us more damage. I'll also be skipping through most of the story because I already read it already. So Corinne here has a defense break as long as we score a critical hit, and we'll take an extra turn. So we'll use this opportunity to defense break the T area here so we get a defense break to set up our Vildred. We will then shove our S3 into Azalea on the front row because we don't want to kill T area since she's our death frag broken target. This actually did end up killing, and we pushed up because in Vildred's passive, he pushes 20% when enemy dies. We push skill 3 and we finish off the fight. And then we'll just dual attack here to kill. Now Ross's passive does help us here. I'll probably mention it later, but the back row gets protected by a barrier if they're ever hit below 50% HP. So you can just put whoever is your squishiest unit in the back row, just to protect them. But we'll use the same exact team here. So we kind of want to do the same thing. We just want to set up our Vildred as best as possible. Now here I was thinking, what's the best target to hit between Roman or Jenna, and it really does not matter. But the primary thing you need to worry about here is basically just take a look at your combat readiness bar, and this will allow you to see who's taking turns and who will take a turn next. And something to note is Arwell and Adley have a CR push passive when you hit someone that is not them. So you can see Arwell is at 50% and will push 10% every time someone's not hit. So if we were to hit Roman, she's going to push to 65. And if we hit someone else other than her again, she's going to push to 75, which is honestly behind our units, so we don't care. But Adley also does the same exact thing. So once we push someone other than Adley, he's going to push to about 82, which is above our Angelica. And if we do this again, he's going to push above our entire team. And since his S3 does have a skill cooldown reset, we want to try to avoid that. So we are safe to hit someone other than Adley one time. So once again, we will set up our Vildred by defense breaking a target that we can crit on. Now, because we do not want Adley to push above our team, we will go use this S3 on Adley, and we actually conveniently crit. If you don't crit, you're fine. We just don't want Adley to take a turn before us. And if we check the CR bar, you can see that Adley's at 87, so if we were to hit someone other than Adley again, he would have pushed ahead of us. And then we just clean house with Vildred, and we should be fine from here. I don't think my mic was turned up the entire time. Whoops. Alright, once again, okay. So we have a bunch of green units here, and we have blue units here. So we want to be very careful about the team we're using now, because we have two blue units which are at an elemental disadvantage, which means that we have a higher chance to miss our attacks. So we have to be very careful about that. It also means that if we use someone like Angelica, she's going to take more damage, because in PvE content, if you're at an elemental advantage, you do a little bit more damage. Now, I don't know if this really applies to this mode, because I know in RTA it's completely removed, but for I think other modes it does still work. So for that reason, we want to swap out one of our damage dealers to Mercedes here, because Mercedes is at an elemental advantage. I think we can probably still, and actually I'm going to swap out Vildred here for Victorica, because this team's a little bit on the tankier end. And let's see here. I think this should suffice. I think it should suffice. I think I'm actually also going to take, let's see here. Okay, so I forgot what Sid's targeting is. It's been a while. We'll also take this. When a warrior or thief hero starts their turn. Actually, we really don't have a warrior or thief, so we'll actually just go for this. This is probably the safest way to go about it. If you want to use Vildred to be a little bit quicker, you can, but this is the safest way to go about it. So we'll just do this. Right. I forgot who Sid targets first. I don't remember if it's the fastest unit or elemental advantage. Okay, so it's elemental advantage. So because Sid is elemental advantage against Angelica, most of these targets are actually just going to target Angelica because it's elemental advantage. That's kind of how the AI works, right? And that's kind of the same thing. If I didn't have an elemental advantage character that they could hit, they would usually target highly the front row unit, or it would be a random target. And since it was be a random target, you don't know who it's going to hit, but whoever it hits is most likely going to get targeted for the rest of the match. It's just something to keep in mind. And then we'll go ahead and finish off Charles with a dual attack. And then Charles is dead. So we'll just go ahead and press S3 here. And then most of the targets are dead. So we'll just go ahead, and since we already have 2-turn immunity, I think we're actually just going to press skill 2. So that way on Angelica, so we can fully heal ourselves. We're plus skill 3 here. Heal ourselves back up. And we'll actually go for an S1. Resulted in a counterattack. We'll S3 for a defense buff. We might take another counterattack here. And then we'll go into S2, which actually stripped off its defense buff and then killed. Okay. Next up, we have a bunch of green units again, and they have increased speed and increased effectiveness. Okay. So I'll just take this same exact team. I don't see an issue with it. Once again, if you want to, you could probably try Vildred, but there's just a high chance he might die. So to be very safe about it, we'll just use this same exact team. And I'll actually go for bonus HP instead of the HP recovery, just so I'm alive a bit longer rather than waiting for someone to die to heal. Mercedes counter is actually pretty huge. So we took all of that damage here, and now we have all these debuffs that are on us. So it makes it a little hardest for us to function, because if we want to do something like use our S2 first, for instance, which gives us a counterattack buff, we can't do that. And so basically when you're in a situation like this, you want to use whatever is your least priority thing or go for your guaranteed damage, right? For instance, here, a lot of these targets here are actually just not very high effectiveness targets. I mean, sorry, not very high HP targets. So actually going for our S2 here is actually very preferable, because it will chip down all of their HP because they don't have a lot of HP. Purgus here probably has the most HP, because if I remember correctly, he is an HP scaler. Yes, he is. So he probably has a bit more higher HP than the rest of these guys, but everyone else should have pretty low HP, because generally if they're built really fast or if they're a DPS, they usually have lower HP unless they're an HP bruiser. And you can check this by once again reading their skills. She is max health because she's a soul weaver, so she probably has a little bit higher HP than the rest, and she has evasion buff. As for the rest of them, this is speed scaling, so they probably don't have a lot of HP, and Bazaar is a debuffer, so he probably doesn't have a ton either. So we're just going to go for S2 just so I can get some damage on everyone. And that results in the counterattack from Purgus, but it is okay because we have Angelica here. Angelica here has the ability to dispel one debuff and grant everyone a immunity buff, so we won't have to worry about that again. Now we are still stunned, but it is a-okay. And I'll actually go for a dual attack here onto Purgus. Let's go for it. We should pull our Veronica, and that will kill. Our Veronica is back up again. And I'll actually just go for a kill onto the Ren here. Ah, we missed. Makes sense. We'll heal Angelica herself. And we'll actually go for S3 here for chip damage onto everyone, as well as to give everyone defense buff. And we are safe. So let's go on to the next mode. So now we have access to Bazaar and Zahak, and we definitely want to use these two because we have blue targets. Once again, we want to play towards elemental advantage as much as possible because it's just a lot, it works a lot easier than fighting at an elemental disadvantage due to having the possibility of missing. So we're going to go ahead and actually take Bazaar with us, and we're going to take Zahak with us. And this Zahak actually is on the resource reduction exclusive equipment, so you just want to keep that in mind. And we have team imprints. So team imprints, you usually have the ability to select these. For instance, if I go to my own heroes and use it, you can, oh, it doesn't actually allow me to swap it from here, but if I go in, you can take your team imprints and, for instance, go like this, right? And put it to self imprint. So you can usually do these, swap it. So it basically, depending on situation, you swap your imprint. But for this here, since we can't choose, we'll just move our units depending on who we want to have the buff. So 100% we want Bazaar to be protected because he's going to be the one stripping all these buffs. And we have Angelica as a soul weaver here. Now, I do not like the idea of using Ross as a tank here, but we don't have a lot of options. So also, let's take a look at the objects that we have now. We have increases hit chance of mage heroes by 70%, and the maximum applicable effectiveness chance of a mage increases up to 100%. So we're actually going to use this. And when attacking all enemies, dispel 2 buffs from the target, ignores effect resistance. So we 100% want to use these. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of having Ross here as a tank, but we do not have much other options, so we're just going to use it. We could also, if we wanted to, swap out Ross for Karen just to bump up our damage, but that means we don't have a knight. So we're just going to take Ross because it could also be elemental bait, because remember, AI will always focus the elemental advantage first. So having Ross here means that all of these guys are just going to focus Ross no matter what, which means it's going to remove damage from the rest of our team. So that means our only goal here for our Angelica is to keep our Ross alive rather than trying to keep our whole team alive, which is something very important in terms of elemental baiting if you play a lot of guild wars or so, right? So Bazaar here actually has a Tagahal's Ancient Book on him, which gives him 20 souls at the start of the battle, and ignore effect resistance means that no matter what, you will land whatever you're doing, right? So we'll go ahead and slow burn this and then just use it on the target. This will get rid of all those pesky skill nullifiers, as well as the mini buff on Bologna. And remember, Zahak has resource reduction. Resource reduction reduces things like focus or fighting spirit. These tiny bars are below heroes like this. Yellow bar is focus, the red bar is fighting spirit. So we're actually going to go ahead and push up Bazaar with Zahak's S2, which pushes 30%, which will help Bazaar set up for his skill 2, which has a blind and decrease attack to make our lives easier. And we'll just go ahead and shove this S3 into Seaside Bologna, which will remove all that's focus. And I'm actually going to use skill 2 on Ross so we can finish off the Bologna, which should pull Zahak because he is the highest attack unit. Because our team is fairly healthy, I think it is fine for me to press S1, but I just noticed that the Kryn will go next, and actually this is perfectly fine. Remember what I said about elemental baiting? Because all of these targets are blue and I have one red target on my team, all these targets are actually going to focus Ross. And Corinne does have a defense break in her kit, but because of the fact I have a mini, I don't need to worry about anything. So I'm actually going to use the skill 1 into Corinne just so I can save my skills in case I take damage. And we're actually going to go for the S2 here to decrease their hit chance and attack. Huh. It seems like that thing has a buff strip. See, this is why you should read. But it's okay. We'll just soul burn here to try to kill. And we did. I completely forgot that thing had a buff strip on it. That is my bad. But it's okay, we survived because it targeted Ross. And we'll just go for S3 here to actually heal ourselves and get defense buff. I completely forgot that thing had a strip on it. And then we'll once again go for, we'll actually go for S2 here to heal up Ross completely. And we'll actually soul burn here again so we can kill the Corinne. And we'll just keep attacking. Well, S1, we just want to do as much damage as we possibly can. And yeah, we just press our buttons just to kill off the Angelica. Okay, I did make a misplay there where I completely forgot Corinne had a buff strip in her kit. So that was kind of my bad. Okay, so now we have... They have effect resistance. So we want to make sure we have this ignore ER buff here. And yeah, I think we just use these same ones, really. So unfortunately, there is a Ravi here. Okay, here's the game plan. We're going to play a little bit risky here, I think. Actually, do I want to play risky? I think I'll use the same team. I'll go ahead and try out using the same team and see how it goes. I think if anything, we could swap out Angelica for like Corinne, but I'll actually keep our Angelica just in case, so we can, just so we can stabilize our team, right? If anything goes wrong, we can just press our Angelica skills and everything will be okay. So we'll just start off the battle the same way we started off the last one. Soulburn Bazaar, gain control of the match, push them back. We'll push up the Bazaar again, so he make sure he is going next online, and we'll do the same once again, do the same thing as last time, go into Seaside Bologna. The main reason we are targeting Seaside Bologna is because we have resource reduction as Hawk, as well as SSB is her abbreviation. She also has the ability to like do AoE hits into our entire team, which you want to be careful of. So I'm actually going to use our skill 3 here to put up a mini buff for our entire team. We're then going to skill 2 here so we can put up some blinds and attack down. Now that she is blinded, no matter what, if she tries to hit Zahak or Bazaar, she's going to miss. Okay, so I'm going to Soulburn into Ravi here. Zahak has increased hit chance, critical hit chance. So because of this, we actually have a pretty high chance of hitting Ravi, even though we're at a elemental disadvantage. Actually, and we also have this buff, increased hit chance buff. Plus we have the hit chance in this skill, so that gives us 100% hit chance, which means that even though we're at an elemental disadvantage, we should be able to hit this Ravi due to increased hit chance. Now we did eat a counter there, but it's a-okay. Let's go ahead and hit the Crozet here because it's the lowest threatening target, because if we hit Shu it can counter, if we hit Ravi it can counter, right? So we hit the target that can't counter, and then we're going to eat an S3 here. Unfortunately, we do not have a mini buff on our Bazaar here, so he has the chance of getting stunned, but it didn't land. Okay, we don't have protection on Zahak here, so I'm actually going to S1 on the... We have defense buff. I'm going to actually do this on Shu here. And I'm going to do this on Crozet. And I'm going to go on Crozet again. And we'll go on Crozet. Now we have hit chance buff here, so I'm going to push up Bazaar, and I'm going to use this skill 3 into Ravi here. Okay, and once again, I think our best bet here actually is to go for skill 2 on Bazaar, because this gives us decreased hit chance and decreased attack, so she will struggle to do damage into us. So we'll just go ahead and use skill 2 first. And as you can see, she missed twice because of that, and we're actually going to go for a dual attack so we can finish off the Shu. Very nice. Okay, so now we have... I did restart the stage because I had to go do something in the middle of it, but hey, we'll use the same exact team. We're going to use attacking all enemies dispels 2 buffs from the target, and we're going to use after attacking with a basic attack, dispel with 1 buff from the target and inflicts unbuffable. And this ignores effect resistance. And we're using Rowana here because Rowana allows you to gain a bunch of heals off of Seaside Bologna here attacking, And if Senya ever does something like a counterattack, then technically we do get a heal, but it's mostly for SSB. You get a ton of heals if you get hit by an AoE, counterattack, extra attack, and so on. So that's why we're using Rowana here. And we're going to be using Brig instead of Ross, because I think Brig is a little bit safer here rather than Ross, because there's so many blue targets. And we're just going to keep Brassard here because he's going to allow us to get all those pesky buffs off of him, because they have just a ton of them. And Zahak is just going to be our additional damage dealer. So let's get going. So we're actually going to skip first turn because Diane has a cleanse on her S3. And if we use our skills here, she's just going to cleanse them. So we're just going to skip turn and just hit Diane here, which is going to get rid of that skill nullifier. We're going to bring our Brassard back upwards. This way we can make sure he is taking, he's like ready to go and just get rid of all these buffs. We'll go ahead and shove our skill 3 into the end. If we crit, we crit. If we don't, we don't, because anti-crit is there. And we did indeed crit. Our Brig got pushed back. DN goes and pushes up, but I guess it doesn't have the exclusive equipment that pushes 15%. Huh, I was kind of expecting that. But either way, we take the next turn, we take our souls, soul burn it, which dispels all buffs and pushes them back by 30. So let's go. This prevents Senya from giving herself a counter attack buff, and as well as it gets rid of all these nasty debuffs. All these nasty buffs. Blown counters and pushes our entire team. So now, let's see here. I'm going to skill 1 into Bologna here. I'm going to soul burn on Brig here to give ourselves a really nice barrier. And I think I'm actually going to go on to the Bologna. Now, I do know the Bologna does heal up our entire team, but if you look at his team, what is the priority target that will kill us, right? Senya herself does not do a ton of damage. She is single target, and she's mostly like just a control unit, right? She's a very old type of DPS or anchor that you would actually call her. So in terms of what we have on our team, we just have way better sources to deal with her rather than this SSB. Because this Seaside Bologna, when she presses S3, she's going to dispel our bus and gets unhealable, which is not very preferable, right? So we'll just keep going to Bologna just to get rid of her, because once we get rid of her, we should be able to close out the match pretty easily no matter what. And now we have all these pesky debuffs on us, but once again, since that Bologna is dead, we don't really care. So we're just going to press S2. Whoever we hit, we get debuffs on, and we didn't hit anyone. Unfortunate. But as you can see, although we are getting completely controlled, we don't even care. So we're just going to go on his DN here, which allows us to get get rid of his cleanser. And our Brig goes here and actually goes on Senya and hits her. So this actually is going to give a defense break. And I'm going to actually just press S1 again, just so I can get some chip damage onto the DN. We're going to pull up our Rawada here. And we're going to just press S3 into Senya because she has a defense break on her. If you didn't land defense break on the Senya, you just go on to the DN. We press S1 on DN, get rid of that defense buff. Got rid of the barrier, but it still works. DN is going to go for a cleanse again, but our Brassard should be ready at this point, so it's no problemo. From here, I'm actually going to press Rowana S3. We're basically just preparing for Crow, because when Crow is very low HP, he will press his skill 3, which is his horse, which when he does that, he will absolutely nuke whatever he's trying to hit you. And now we have our Basar skill ready, so we're just going to use it again. And yeah, so Crow's going to try to horse us here. And he's going to probably kill off something. But since we have revive buff on everything, we don't care. We're just going to actually come back. So he goes into Brig here, and Brig dies. But we have revive, so we come back. We soul burn the barrier again. And we are going to go into Brig. And then the extra attack always goes into highest attack, so it's going to go into Senya. And we did miss, so we didn't get anything. Basar, once again, we skill 2, gets our blinds and attack downs up. And we're going to soul burn into Senya, and she's dead. And since Crow already used his horse ability, he no longer has Aureus or Escort, I believe. So he can't mitigate damage for his team, so that's why you saw me do full damage into his Senya. And we're going to skill 3 into Dien here to try to kill her, get rid of his sustain. And Dien is now dead. So now we, once again, we're going to pull up our Basar. And we will skill 3 into the Crow. And he has Holy Sack, so he comes back to life. And we soul burn here. And that's a dead one. Alright. So now we have... Okay, so we're just going to use the same team. We're just going to use the same team once again. The same buffs here, I think. We don't need to change anything. Yeah, we don't need to change anything. We especially want to, after attacking with basis skill, dispels 1 debuff, because after they use a basis skill, they're going to get a random buff. So we want to make sure we have that, but we'll just use the same exact things. We don't need to change anything. So Elena actually, well, you want to be careful about this, Elena. When you use an AoE skill, she will use her S2, which pushes up herself by 25% and dispels 1 debuff, I think. That's one of her exclusive equipments. I actually don't know if this one has it or not. And then once she pushes up, she's going to press her skill 3, which dispels 1 debuff from all allies and grants them invincibility and increased effect resistance. So for that reason here, we're just going to go ahead and press skill 2 here. This will proc the Elena, which will get this pesky passive out of the way for next time. So we're just going to go ahead and press it. And once again, we're going to push up our Basar so we can get him prepared to do his next skill. And we're going to use this skill 3 into the Bellona, so this way we do not take a counter attack when we're not prepared to. We actually resisted that, which is actually very huge for us. So we're actually going to press skill 2. And we're going to use this skill into the Bloodblade Corinne. Bloodblade Corinne seems like the more priority target to get rid of because she can do big damage. I don't know if this BBK in specific has good damage, but usually on paper when you're fighting Bloodblade Corinnes, you should expect them to do quite a bit of damage into your team. So now that this buff is all stripped, we're going to ignore ER, dispel all buffs to get rid of every one of these pesky buffs, as well as push them back, put on a buffable so we can have an easier time of taking them down. Bologna goes for the S2 here because we hit so many targets, and that pushes us up, as well as puts up some defense breaks on us, which is not very preferable. So here I'm actually going to press S1 into this BBK, and I'm going to still burn here so I can increase my damage to ensure that I take this BBK down to 1 HP. And since the BBK is unbuffable, she procced her passive, which gives the immortality, but since she is unbuffable, she does not get the immortality. She will survive because her passive keeps her alive so that she can get it, but she won't actually get the immortality since she's unbuffable. So now that we procced her passive, we just hit her again. And now BBK is dead. So now we're fighting a 3v4, which is way more preferable for us. Now, unfortunately, we're going to take this skill 3 from Bologna, which is going to shove a bunch of unbuffables on us, which is not very preferable. And we're actually going to take an extra hit here, which isn't very cool. So it's pretty bad because our Brassar got hit, but there's nothing we could have possibly done. So we'll just go into Bologna here, and we're going to take some of this extra damage here from the Bologna. And he actually hit me here too. So we're actually going to go for skill 3 here now, which should give us our revive buff. So if Brassar dies, we're going to be able to revive. And we're going to go for... Elena does have her S2, but I do think we really do need to go for S2 just so we can get the blinds off. And we're going to push up Brassar here, get rid of those pesky buffs, and we're going to skill 3 onto the Bologna here so we can resource reduce her. And we're going to S1 into the Bologna again, get rid of the defense buff. Our Brassar is almost dead, not very good. But we should be able to solo from here, so it's not very... should be okay. Bologna did survive. And we'll finish off Bologna here. So not very preferable, but we have to deal with the Crow now. But to be honest, this 2v, these two should be able to 100% deal with the Crow. So here's our game plan. Crow will probably horse whoever is the lowest HP, and our lowest HP is Rana. So I'm actually going to go in on Crow here so I can try to kill him, and I miskilled. This is going to proc the horse. Now, Crow can miss into us, which means he's going to do lower damage, but I highly doubt... he did hit us. Okay, so now it's the Hawk solo. So we push this into ourselves, just so we can get the attack buff, and we'll press S3 so we can kill the Crow. Now we should be able to solo here. It's a little bit on the risky side. And we soulbird here, which kills. So that was a little bit on the risky side. If you wanted to play that a little bit more safe, I think you probably could have just kept... You could have killed the Seaside Bologna first, and then that way you have to deal with the Bloodbane Corinne, because as long as you have the unbuffable on Corinne, she's not really a threat. It was mostly the Seaside Bologna that gave us an issue there, so if you just target Bologna first, then you probably should be good. So now we have to deal with Genua, and we have this SSB here, and sorry, SBA, Silverblade Araminta, and we just have a lot of debuffs coming at us, which is not very preferable. So in order to deal with those debuffers, we need someone who can give an immunity buff, and that's why they gave us the DJB. So we're going to go ahead and swap out our Soul Weaver for DJB, which gives us a cleanse against this attack. And since we're getting... And basically, when you look at a comp like this, you just take a look at what type of comp this is. This is an opener, this is a debuffer, and this is kind of like a DPS, but these are not units that have very high HP. So our goal is to just survive, because once we survive, we should be able to take it back home. So we're gonna actually take Mercedes with us instead of our really high HP targets. We're gonna take Brig out for Ross because Ross is a little bit better here, and we're gonna actually go for Seaside Bologna, I believe here, which gives us a little bit more of fighting power. And we're gonna put Bologna down here, give HP to Ross and Mercedes, and this should suffice. We're going to swap all our objects out, and we're going to put this one on when a soldier or mage uses a skill, debuff, dispels a debuff, and we're going to use this one as well that dispels a debuff, so we can keep those debuffs off of us. So let's go. Once again, you can read the story if you like. And we're going to take a lot of hits and a lot of debuffs here, but due to the battle objects that we took, we should be perfectly fine. And since we took Mercedes with us, who is a turn 2 unit that has a revive in her kit, we should not worry if she were to die or anything, right? So yeah, you can see we're taking a lot of damage here, so it looks pretty scary, but we have DJB here to save the day, and fortunately there is a barrier on Cecilia here. So if you do go before Cecilia, you probably do not want to use skill 2. You only use skill 2 if they have a barrier on them, because if they have a barrier, you will take an extra turn, and fortunately Cecilia does have that. So you press that button, get rid of all those mini buffs, do some extra damage into Cecilia, and we will go ahead and press skill 3. This cleanses off all those debuffs on us and gets us our tempo needed to take a turn. And once again, from looking at the type of comp this is, as long as you survived that entire debacle here, you pretty much won, because it's kind of like a squishy cleave comp that is meant to kill you off in your first turns. And when you survive that, you pretty much win the match. So all we need to do is just go all in. So instead of pressing S3 here to heal ourselves, we're actually just going to dual attack the Silverblade Araminta here, because she's a very squishy unit. And yeah, we just kill her. And we go for SSB here, just press all our skills. There's no way we can lose from here. And then we won. And we'll just S1, just so we can save ourselves the animation. Alright, next. So, once again, SBA again, a ton of debuffs are coming in. We just want to survive that first turn. So I'll just use the same exact team. I don't think there's anything else we want to swap out. If you want to, maybe you can use Victorica. But like really, we just want to survive the first turn. And once we survive, we pretty much win. So we'll just use the same exact team. So we're going to take a lot of damage here, very aggressive. And we actually got a magic for friends here, so that actually is going to do a little bit of damage into his team. And we're good. So there's no barrier here, so we don't want to make the mistake of pressing skill 2. We want to just straight up go for S3. So we can heal, so we can cleanse off all of these debuffs off our team. And here, once again, it's a pretty squishy team, so we're just going to go for a skill 2 here, just so we can get our damage out. I'm going to go into the Archdemon Mercedes here, and we didn't get anything. And unfortunately, we seem to have gotten all our skills reset from the Kuwarik, so we're just going to press S1 into the Leica here, so we can just finish her off. Unfortunately, it didn't kill, but we have SSB here to help clean this up for us. And then we just press skill 3 on the Seaside Bologna. And I'll just press S2 here. This pushes back. Oh, that really didn't do anything. And we'll press S3 here just because. Okay, now we have Meteor Kuwarik. that we took way too many burns and bleeds. So actually we're going to swap this to after being attacked dispels 1 debuff. So this will get rid of a lot of the debuffs that we're actually receiving. So let's just do that. So now instead of taking all those burns and bleeds, we're going to take a little bit less. And as you can see, after they hit me, we got rid of a bunch of those burns and bleeds that are on us. So that way we don't take the full amount of damage here. And then once this area hits, we're going to get rid of the bombs that she has here. And we did lose our Mercedes once, but we should be a-okay. We already have a mini buff from the DJB, so we're actually going to go ahead and skill 2 into this Sage Ball. Sage Ball will target Dark due to elemental advantage, but we don't need to cure. And we're going to skill 2 here. Actually, I think I'm going to... Yes, I'm going to actually skill 2. That gives us attack buff. And pulls Mercedes here. And... okay, that didn't give us attack buff, my bad. We're going to S3 here. That gives us attack buff. And now we have a bunch of buffs on, and yeah, we just go for S3 here on Hand Guy, put back up a mini buff and extend our attack buff. I'm just gonna go for skill 2 here, which is going to get rid of that immunity and attack buff off of the Flan here. And we're going to hit Flan, and we're going to S3 on Ross to put up defense buff. And skill 2 here on Mercedes. Very nice. So just make sure you use that battle object that dispels a debuff when you're getting attacked, because it will lower the amount of debuffs you have on you. We kind of want to do the same thing here. Let's see here. I think we just do the same thing. If you'd like, you can also just use SSB here. I think I want to use SSB. Let's just use SSB for fun. Shall we? Or I think we just need Hand Guy, right? Let's be safe. We'll take 2 cleansers, but I'm going to take SSB, I think. Yeah, let's take SSB. Because SSB has a cleanse on our S2, which will make it a little bit harder for us to get debuffed. So SBA goes, knocks me back. We push ahead here. I'm going to go for S3. This will get off most of those debuffs out of the way, and hopefully the DJ... Wait, we might need to change... Okay, we did resist there. So that pushes... We might take a lot of damage from this. Nothing we can't handle. SSB goes. We put skill 3 on the DJB. Now, if you do get tagged by the we're going to skill 2 onto this says here. If you do get tagged by the DDR, you can take off the battle object that allows you to push up after you get debuffed. So it just allows your DJB to go behind all the debuffers, but you just have to be a little bit careful, because if unfortunately if the SES takes a turn, you do lose a unit if you're slept. So you don't want to make sure that you're not slept or stunned to make sure you don't get nuked by SES. And then there you go. So remember, these were the objects that we use after being attacked, as well as when debuffed, then at the end of a turn. So now this is kind of just revive or hell. So we want to make sure that we are... So, okay, Specimen says has on his S3 extincts targets. So we want to make sure we're using this so it can extinct targets. SBA has a stun in her kit, which allows us to set up for SES, so we want to make sure to use her. But SBA herself does not have any buff strips in her kit, so we actually want to use Bazaar to ensure that we strip those buffs. So we'll come over here and we're going to use when defeating an enemy increases common res of the caster by 30%. This allows us to make sure we are cycling quickly, and we're going to go ahead and also use we'll go ahead and use this to make sure that we tag on our targets here. I think you can actually I'm going to go for increased attack. This allows us to just make sure our SES kills our targets. So we're going to go for this. When defeating an enemy, increase common res by 30% and decrease cooldowns, and also increase attack. And we're going to use Ross, Bazaar, SES, and SSB. And we're going to have our SSB in the back row because she's a pretty squishy unit. If you take a check here, she is at 1111. Our SES has evasion, so we don't need to worry about that. And our Bazaar is a little bit bulkier than our SBA, but we want to make sure we keep our SBA as alive as possible. Once again, I'll just be skipping through this. So once again, no matter what, we have Bazaar here, we soul burn, we push back. And we're going to press skill 3 on SBA here. Now, if you want to deal with the Ruel, you cannot kill her, but preferably you kill whoever has a stun on them. If you miss stun on Ruel, you can go ahead and kill another target. You're just going to have to sit here for a longer match. So we're going to go ahead and kill the Ruel so we do not have to deal with it. Our Bazaar got killed here, but that is a-okay. We're going to dual attack. Actually, we're going to press S3. This gives us defense buff for our entire team. We're going to press the skill into Tori because hopefully we do not hit her so we can burn her. Okay. If you did get the burn, you're just going to pop RB and take extra damage, which is fine again. Your win con here is SES, no matter what. So we're just going to go ahead and finish the RB. That gets extinct. Once again, if you do burn and just murder everyone because of SBA, it's perfectly fine. You're just going to have to play for SES. And we're just going to use SES again to extinct. Okay. We will go ahead and we'll use the same exact team. I see no reason not to. So we're just going to go find match. And once again, skill 3 soul burn. Let that rip. We're going to use Silverblade Araminta S3. And a little change of pace, we're actually going to sit here and we're going to... what's the best way to go about this? I'm going to skill 3 onto Ruel once more. Ruel just has a revive in her kit. And she's just a little bit annoying to deal with. So we're just going to skill 3 here while we have all of them stunned. This will allow us to just get defense buff. And we got blind on everyone here. We're going to hit... Okay. We're going to skill 3 on Arbiter Vildred here. And then we're going to skill 2 here and hopefully we hit. We did hit, so we have a blind on the Ravi now. We got the Solitary Rune here. We're going to hit the Ravi here because we can probably just kill her. And we actually got Abyssal Crown stun. We're going to dual attack here into the Ravi. And we're going to skill 3 into the Ravi just to kill. And that just leaves you by yourself. Now, if you wanted to have an easier time, you probably could have just killed the Apocalypse Ravi first because of the War God that she has. So now we have access to Briar Witch Assyria, which makes our life a lot easier. So we're just going to go ahead and use Briar Witch now. And we can pretty much just turn our brain off and we should win. We're going to use Top Model Lulika here so we can get a Tag of Hell's Ancient Book for us to use so we can ensure that we kill. And pretty much here, you can pick whoever you like. I'm pretty sure we should win no matter what. I'm just going to take Vildred here so we can just cleave. So we're going to take Vildred, Tomoka, SBA, and Briar Witch, and we'll just go ahead and you take off the attack for this just in case. And it just gives you increased damage if the target has immortality. I don't think we really need it, but we'll just take it just in case. Tomoka goes first. We will press S2. And we'll press S3 into the least priority target here. I'll just go into... Let's just go into Ruel. It doesn't matter who we go into because since we have Briar Witch, no one here can revive. So we press S3 here. Everyone gets tagged. We soul burn on Briar Witch. And then we soul burn on Vildred. And that, my friends, is how you cleave. And we'll go ahead and do the same thing for this fight here. Now the Selene here is on Storm Sword, but if you guys math the CR, if we press S2, S3, push by 30%, Storm Sword pushes by 24. So we should push more than the Selene pushes. So we'll just go ahead and do it. And we're going to S3 into the Arbiter Vildred here, because we can just kill it off so we don't have to deal with it. This also pushes up our Vildred right behind here, and pretty much our Vildred is ready just to sweep and kill. We actually went before our Briar Witch. Interesting. I'll just go ahead and press the skill 3. It doesn't really matter what we do from here. There's no way we can lose as long as Briar Witch is alive. So burn our Briar Witch here. And then we just kill. Alright. And we'll go on to the final battles. Okay, we're moving on to our last team, and basically this is just our standard Harseti comp. If you fought Harseti in the past, you know how it goes. Just young Senya, green unit, go, and you win, right? It's pretty easy. So for this comp here, we're actually going to use this very last buff, which allows us to get Venom. So we're going to use DDR, and we're going to use this HP buff, which will boost our max HP to make sure our young Senya does the most amount of damage it can possibly do. So we'll take young Senya, bring Alencia. So every time Harseti goes, we do a little bit of a huge pop, and we'll get a CR push to push ourselves above the line. We will then take Death Dealer Ray to help us with our damage, and we'll take Rowana because after Harseti does her big thing, we want to make sure we're healing ourselves consistently every time Harseti does anything. So we'll just go, and it should be pretty easy. Harseti is extremely easy to fight. You just have to know what you're doing. So we'll just go ahead and skip just so we can get started. And Harseti will do our thing. And once again, because we have young Senya, we do not care. Now our pop damage is reduced by Fallen Cecilia, but that doesn't matter. We still get the benefit of knocking out all of these debuffs we have on us. We'll go ahead and press skill 3 on Alencia here. This allows us to get defense buff as well as strip off any buffs that we... Did that FCC just counter? What the heck? We'll press skill 3 on Death Dealer Ray. And then we'll press skill 2 on Death Dealer Ray here. It's not necessary for us to press skill 3. So I'm just going to actually press it on Harseti here. Just so I can get some Venoms out. Alencia will go into Fallen Cecilia, defense break, and hit Pestilence twice. And this should kill her. We will go in on to Harseti here. That kills her. We will sleep Janua. We will soul burn into Tywin. The defense break sticks. That kills him, and then Janua does his thing. We will skill 3 here so we don't accidentally proc Janua yet. And that's 1. And we'll soul burn here so we prevent Dog Captain from proccing. So basically playing around Janua here is basically just old information. As long as you control Janua, but while he and proc him under 50% while he's being controlled, Janua will not do his big Dog Captain move, and then you can just play around that. So basically just leave Janua up till last alive, and then you should be fine. Because if most of your team is alive, Janua certainly cannot kill everyone. Now we could, I think we just keep using same team here because there's nothing else different, and we'll just keep our HP the same because now they don't have a Fallen Cecilia. So we should see a really huge pop come out from young Senya, which should take probably half of their HP bar. Teach those baddies a lesson. And you can see here, Elena comes out. She can't push herself because of Harseti, and look at that, half of their HP gone. We'll push up, and we're actually going to go ahead and kill the Elena here. This way she can't put up immortality on the entire team. And we'll just press S1 again so we can pop all those venoms. Once again, we don't want her to proc immortality on the entire team, which will prevent our damage from coming out. We'll press skill 3, which will put everyone to sleep. And we'll press skill 2. Landy here kills our Death Dealer Ray. Our Rowana dies here, but we are perfectly fine. We will go ahead and hit the Flan because she has evasion. And then we'll press skill 3 here for defense buff. And that is a win. Alright, now we have Urban Shadow Shoe. Here, if you want, you can actually not use Rowana. I'm gonna use Rat because it'll just make our lives faster. And I'll just go ahead and I think I'll swap out it's not really needed to do much, right? I'll just leave the HP buff here. So let's go. Now you could use Rowana, it really doesn't matter what you use. When you're fighting Horsetti teams, it's relatively easy to deal with. So once again, we get that wonderful S2 here. We press skill 3, cleanse our entire team, push up. Our Alencia goes next. I'm going to actually go in on to Ruel here. We eat an Elbrus here. Okay, we probably would. Okay, I didn't know that was on Elbrus. Probably Rowana would have been better since it was on Elbrus, but it is A-okay. We'll press skill 3 on Death Dealer Ray. And then we'll press skill 2. And we'll just go ahead and go on to Horsetti here. This will kill her. We'll It seems like we got injured from something, so I'm assuming this was probably from the Bellion, and we'll just go in on her. If you see Fine countered, we will actually we're gonna kill the Ruel here. This will push the Ruel up. We hit the Ruel. And then we'll just skill 1 on the Euphine here. And this should kill her. Now if you want to be safe, once again, you just take Rowana instead of, like, for instance, DDR. It's much more safer. But I really didn't need to. And once again, we use the same exact team. Now, when any Light Knights die, it gives the other targets immunity. And so pretty much your best bet is just to kill the Bride Senya first, because Bride Senya, if you proc the backline units, you will eat a S3 with full penetration. Now, there's also 2 ways to go about it. If you just injure Bride Senya enough, you actually really just don't care about what Bride Senya does. So we're kind of going to go for that route. We're going to injure her and then take care of the back row. So we're not going to go for skill 3, we're just going to S1 the Bride Senya. This will injure her quite a bit. We did eat a counterattack from Ilanov. We'll go for skill 3 here. And then we'll go for S2. And then we'll just kill Heartsteady. So Bride Senya is injured enough to the point that we don't care. So we're going to kill this here. I got us another hit. And then we're going to press skill 3 here. This should do enough damage to kill off Bride Senya, and it should strip the BBK. And unfortunately, it did not do enough damage to kill the Bride Senya, but it is a-okay. Once again, once you injure her enough, it gets to the point that you actually just don't care. Because she's injured so badly that she doesn't do a lot of damage, and that's kind of the point here. So we'll just hit Bride Senya because the injury pop should do enough, and it did. And that is pretty much the whole entire event for you, played through with barely any errors. So if you guys enjoyed, you can be sure to leave a like. This is a lot longer of a video than usual, but this event literally takes about an hour long, so what can you do? But it is fully walked through. I'll try to put the timestamps in the description so you can just jump to where you'd like, but that is pretty much it. That's the whole entire event. It was very fun for me, and yeah, you have now completed the Orbis Gladiatorium. So once again, I'll see you guys next time. Get yourselves some juicy rewards and enjoy yourselves.